What I want is, particularly millennials, I want progressives, liberals, moderates, and independents in particular.
Welcome back. Steve Bannon's roller coaster plot and his daring dance with the law are the only viable prospects available today. Nothing less than a soap opera marathon will set you up for the drama that is soon to unfold. From dodging subpoenas like they're hot potatoes to claiming executive privilege from a golf course, this guy's got more moves than a breakdancing octopus.
On the afternoon of January 20th, we must free the 1,400 patriots and must incarcerate the criminals.
The man of media intrigue and political prowess deserves a little introduction before we dig into today's basics.
This is the story of how one man rose from Goldman Sachs banker to climate change apocalypse experiment mastermind to World of Warcraft gold magnate to far right-wing propagandist to shadow president.
Steve Bannon, the maestro of media and maverick filmmaker, donned many hats during his stint with President Trump before stirring up the White House as senior counselor and top strategist in 2017. Bannon made waves as the puppeteer behind Breitbart.com, a site known for its spicy conservatism and a knack for riling up the establishment. But Bannon's journey to the corridors of power was no walk in the park.
Born in Virginia to patriotic blue-collar Democrats in 1953, Bannon's first political experience was running for student body president at Virginia Tech in 1975. The outgoing president, Gary Clisham, denounced him.
After earning his BA in Urban Affairs at Virginia Tech, he traded the quiet life for a naval adventure, navigating the seas on a destroyer before landing a gig at the Pentagon. Post-Navy, he took a wild ride through Wall Street, diving headfirst into mergers and acquisitions at Goldman Sachs, where, rumor has it, he made more waves than a shark in a bathtub. Never one to rest on his laurels, Bannon set sail in the choppy waters of entertainment finance, founding Bannon & Co., a firm that lit up Hollywood like a neon sign. Even after the firm sailed off into the sunset with Société Générale, Bannon's star continued to rise, blazing a trail as a conservative docu-film auteur.
Bannon went on to win the election. Bannon joined the Navy, telling a fellow officer it would look good on his resume because he wanted to go into politics someday. Little record of his time in the Navy exists because of undisclosed issues with the service's personnel archives, but he was stationed in the Arabian Sea.
In a plot twist worthy of a blockbuster, Bannon co-founded the Government Accountability Institute in 2012, a watchdog that sniffed out political shenanigans faster than a bloodhound in a sausage factory. That same year, he hoisted the anchor at Breitbart.com, where his editorial flair gave the alt-right a platform that rocked the boat like a storm in a teacup.
Navy for Harvard Business School. Then, like much of future President Trump's staff, Bannon went to work for Goldman Sachs.
I'm in business with Goldman Sachs. I do things with them. The firm is certainly not the firm it used to be, although it's still one of the, the building blocks of our capitalist society.
He was with the investment bank only briefly before splintering off his own firm.
So what role did Bannon play in the Trump administration? Picture him as the White House's strategic swashbuckler, steering the ship through the turbulent seas of policy and politics with all the drama and flair of a Hollywood blockbuster.
Bannon & Co., which focused on the media, where Bannon would amass his fortune and also his penchant for propaganda. Bannon executive produced films like the Sean Penn-directed The Indian Runner. It cost $7 million to make and made $191,125.
Curious about Steve Bannon's legal saga? We're up for an in-depth exploration of his congressional subpoena as we uncover the details of Bannon's alleged offenses and the battle that followed.
Jury selection has begun in the criminal trial of Steve Bannon. The chief strategist to former President Trump is charged with 2 counts of criminal contempt of Congress for refusing to comply with a subpoena issued by the January 6th Select Committee. Nicole Killian reports.
How you doing, guys? Thanks for showing up.
Steve Bannon waved to the cameras entering federal court Monday. Inside, the former White House strategist sat mostly masked with his hands clasped during jury selection. The former Trump advisor faces 2 counts of contempt of Congress, each carrying a penalty of up to a year in jail after defying a subpoena from the January 6th committee.
It's nothing but a show trial.
Steve Bannon, the seasoned sidekick of former President Donald Trump, found himself in hot water, facing the music for thumbing his nose at a congressional subpoena over the January 6th Capitol ruckus.
Committee members say they're still open to hearing from Bannon, who recently offered to testify.
If he wants to give us his information, we're eager to get it.
Of interest to the committee are 2 phone calls Bannon had with former President Trump on January 5th, when he offered this warning.
All hell is going to break loose.
After a courtroom showdown that lasted longer than a debate on pineapple pizza, Bannon got smacked with a guilty verdict on 2 counts, one for dodging a deposition like it was a dentist appointment, and another for playing hide-and-seek with documents like they were his car keys after a night out.
In a primetime hearing Thursday, the panel will focus on the 187 minutes of the Capitol siege, describing the former president's inaction as a dereliction of duty. It has also subpoenaed records from the Secret Service after the agency acknowledged some text messages from January 5th and 6th may have been deleted.
This has not been the most favorable of news to Trump supporters, as it has added to the litany of crimes directly or indirectly associated with Trump. Some have taken to mocking the former president for being skilled at personally handpicking felons. On the other hand, it's either Steve Bannon is a skilled actor or he's one of the most adamant people out there.
It's hard to believe that you would go forward in a transition, you do a factory reset of the phones of agents and not back up the data. I mean, who does that?
Bannon himself, looking as defiant as a cat with a stolen cookie, echoed the sentiment, "We may have lost this round, but mark my words, we're in this for the long haul." He graciously thanked the jury, saving his choicest words for the congressional committee, which he likened to a spineless puppet show.
CNN's Sarah Murray's following the story from the courthouse. Sarah, tell us how this all went down.
Well, it seemed like a big surprise to Steve Bannon and his attorneys that federal judge Carl Nichols said that Steve Bannon will have to begin serving his sentence. He has to self-surrender by July 1st.
On the other side of the courtroom, prosecutors laid down the law like a judge in a spaghetti western, insisting Bannon couldn't just ghost Uncle Sam's invite to spill the beans. The subpoena wasn't a suggestion, they argued, likening Bannon's no-show to ignoring a fire alarm in a crowded theater.
The judge that year sentenced him to 4 months behind bars, but said he could stay free pending an appeal of his conviction. Well, they discussed that appeal in the hearing today, and the judge said, look, the appeals court wholeheartedly disagreed with the legal arguments that Bannon and his team were making. He said he was not going to put off this sentence.
The saga unraveled around Bannon's claim of executive privilege, a defense as flimsy as wet toilet paper in a hurricane, given he'd been booted from Trump's inner circle years before the chaos of January 6th. His lawyers tap danced around deadlines like they were forgotten dance steps, trying to convince the jury that Bannon's no-show was more miscommunication than defiance.
Was sort of trying to urge the judge to reconsider. The judge was not very pleased with how that exchange was going, how he was being talked to. Unsurprisingly, Bannon still gave off a defiant air as he left the courthouse today. Take a listen to what he said.
This is about one thing. This is about shutting down the MAGA movement.
In the end, it was a battle of letters and legal jargon, with Bannon's team playing the flexible deadlines card while prosecutors stuck to the rules are rules mantra. The courtroom drama included accusations of bias and even a squabble over signatures, proving that even high-stakes legal battles can have their soap opera moments.
This is about one thing. This is about shutting down the MAGA movement, shutting down grassroots conservatives, shutting down President Trump. Not only are we winning, we are going to prevail, and every number and every poll shows that. There's nothing that can shut me up and nothing that will shut me up.
As Bannon faces potential prison time, the curtain falls on this act, but the drama is far from over. Stay tuned for the next episode in the Bannon saga, coming soon to a courthouse near you.
Pretty rare is that government records that are within the nexus of a congressional investigation go missing.
Steve Bannon will have to report to prison this Monday. The Supreme Court rejected Bannon's emergency appeal to delay his sentence. The longtime Trump ally was sentenced to 4 months for defying a subpoena from the House committee investigating January 6th. Bannon is appealing that conviction.
The Supreme Court has slammed the door closed on Steve Bannon's hopes for a vacation from prison as he tries to wriggle out of his 4-month sentence for dodging a congressional subpoena related to the January 6th Capitol chaos. Bannon, resembling a cat trying to avoid a bath, filed an emergency appeal after a judge set July 1st as his check-in date behind bars. This isn't the first time the court has shrugged off such pleas from Trump's inner circle.
We're clearly at a political war in this country.
Just before he reports to federal prison, one-time top strategist for former President Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, remains defiant.
We only get stronger with this. We're not going to get weaker. We're a populist movement.
Originally, Bannon's plea went straight to Chief Justice John Roberts, the traffic cop for such matters in Washington. However, Roberts swiftly punted it to the full court, which gave Bannon's appeal a thumbs down faster than a speeding tweet. As usual, no reasons were given for the rejection, leaving Bannon's legal team scratching their heads more vigorously than a dog with an itch.
Mr. Bannon refused to testify.
But his refusal to comply with the congressional investigation of the January 6th Capitol attack and alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election led to Bannon's conviction by a jury on 2 counts of contempt of Congress. The Supreme Court now refusing to delay Bannon's 4-month sentence as he appeals.
Defense attorneys contended that Bannon's refusal to cooperate stemmed from his former lawyer's belief that the subpoena was about as valid as a world's best boss mug from a Dunder Mifflin gift shop. They argued that since Trump allegedly muttered something about executive privilege during one of his golf outings, Bannon was off the hook.
Why refuse to comply with the congressional subpoena?
Because first off, my lawyer told me when I got the letter of exerting executive privilege from the president, the J6 committee was not legitimately structured. So therefore, their subpoenas don't mean anything.
No court has so far agreed with those objections. The January 6th committee's interest in Bannon stemming in part from White House records.
Prosecutors, though, pointed out that Bannon had left the White House eons before the committee started its nosy investigation. A jury found Bannon guilty of flipping Congress the proverbial bird almost 2 years ago, slapping him with counts of contempt for skipping a deposition and holding back documents linked to Trump's electoral tantrum against Joe Biden. U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols initially let Bannon frolic freely while he appealed, but the party ended when an appeals panel gave his convictions a high five. They later shut down Bannon's attempt to avoid the slammer faster than a contestant on Survivor getting snuffed out at tribal council.
He's exerted executive privilege on.
Bannon, who speaks regularly around the country,
are you prepared to leave it all on the battlefield?
Says even in prison, his message won't be silenced.
What is your end game?
Victory or death of this republic. If we don't win, first of all, they shred the Constitution.
Bannon's playbook now includes appealing his conviction to the full appeals court, with his Republican cheerleaders in the House claiming the January 6th committee is as legitimate as a toupee in a hurricane. Meanwhile, another Trump crony, Peter Navarro, has already punched his ticket to the clink for his congressional contempt charges, courtesy of a similar Supreme Court thumbs down earlier this year.
The U.S. Supreme Court to step in to prevent him from being sent to prison. Bannon was sentenced to 4 months behind bars for ignoring a subpoena issued by a congressional committee investigating the January 6th attack at the U.S. Capitol. The Hill national political reporter Kate Martell joins us to discuss.
But Bannon's legal acrobatics don't stop there. He's also dancing around criminal charges in New York for allegedly pocketing cash from donors who thought they were funding a Mexican wall but ended up with a wall of legal trouble instead. Bannon's plea? Not guilty, of course. And his trial's been delayed longer than a Game of Thrones sequel. In the meantime, Bannon might want to consider taking up chess. After all, he's already well versed in moves that involve staying out of checkmate.
The magnitude of the crime against democracy that we describe in our report.
Whether maneuvering subpoenas or claiming special privileges from a golf cart, Bannon's antics never fail to entertain. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to stay updated on all things legal comedy. We'll see you next time on the show, where justice may be blind, but what follows is always on point.